One of the most iconic things in Destiny are the exotics. Exotics are supposed to make you feel overpowered. I have been thinking about that statement for a while, and I've decided to make a tier list for the exotics. In this video, I will be going over the exotic primaries and seeing if they are really overpowered, or if they are even worth using an exotic slot. To put them in tiers, I am basing it around two main categories, PvE and PvP. I will be going over how well they are in PvE and in PvP. At the end of the video, I will put them into subcategories of PvE and PvP based on their weapon type. An example is, I will put the auto rifles in a ranked order based on PvE. For the Age of Triumph exotics, which are the primaries of each raid but are called adepts, I will rank them in a list under PvE and PvP. For all the elemental exotic primaries, which will include some of the regular exotics and all of the adepts, I'll rank them in a list under what's best to use for each elemental singe modifier for nightfalls. For example, I will rank all the arc weapons under the category of arc singe. Without further ado, let's start ranking all the exotic primaries. The first exotic on our tier list is the Touch of Malice. The Touch of Malice was the exotic quest to King's Fall. It was the meta of the Taken King and the go-to weapon when it came to King's Fall. I don't see many people using it anymore, but I really did enjoy using this weapon. In PvE, this weapon's pretty good. The final round shot does take away some health with each shot, but you can counter that by getting 3 rapid kills to regenerate your health. That being said, this weapon makes you want to get rapid kills to constantly get more health and do a lot of damage. In the Daughter's encounter of the King's Fall, this is the best weapon to do damage. In PvP, I don't see many people using this weapon, but if you're careful and use it strategically, this gun is really good. You can shred your enemies with the final round shot or just with the normal bullet. For PvE, I give it an A tier mainly because it's pretty good. If you don't use the final round a lot, you will find yourself running out of ammo quickly. For PvP, I'll give it a B tier because again, the final round is a risk. You have to be careful using it or you'll end up lowering your health for your enemies. Next on the list is the Last Word. The Last Word. Definitely was and still is a powerful gun throughout Destiny's history. In PvE, it's not too great. It's not a weapon that's built mainly for PvE. The fire rate versus magazine versus impact is not good. You can only kill about 2 enemies before you have to reload. The gun is very weird, and it's just something that you don't use. However, in PvP, it's an amazing weapon and can 3-tap people to the head. This gun is built for precise hipfire, which has better stability than aiming down sights. This gun has a high rate of fire, which allows you to mow down your enemies. Back then, in year 1, every player would have this equipped for Trials of Osiris. For PvE, I give it a D tier mainly due to the lack of perks that help in PvE. You don't get triple tap, firefly, explosive rounds, nor outlaw, and you run out of ammo pretty damn quick. In PvP, I give it an A tier because the perks mainly revolve around it being completely built for PvP. Back then in Trials of Osiris, it was the meta alongside with Might Multitool. Here is a clip of the ADS recoil compared to the hipfire recoil in the Last Word. The Last Word's perk, the Last Word, improves stability and target acquisition when firing from the hip. The next gun on our list is the First Curse. This gun is it's a sniper hand cannon, especially when you have the First Curse perk activated. The perk states that the first precision kill of the magazine refills it, granting bonuses to range and stability until the player reloads. It's a very slow but hard-hitting gun with range. In PvE, the triple tap and First Curse perk is amazing if you headshots. It does so much damage out of far range, and you can expel a lot of bullets. You can proc the perk so much, and it's so satisfying to get a precision kill with this weapon. In PvP, the fire rate is slow compared to the metas like Palindrome and Ayasuna. It also relies on you getting the precision kills to activate the First Curse perk, and to also hit your shots where you'll end up being outgunned by the metas. In PvE, I give it an A tier because I feel like I just shred through the ads. You can definitely use the perk more often. In PvP, I would give it a B tier mainly because it can hit really hard even without the first perk activated. With it on, you can snipe and 4-tap someone from further range in the meadows. This gun is very underrated. It takes time and skill to get good with it, and I think it deserves some love. The next gun on our list is Monte Carlo. I don't really have much to say about this gun. Overall, it just has a lot of range, and it's just a regular auto rifle. Monte Carlo method perk is useful at certain times, but not often. In PvE, the gun is alright, but you can definitely use its perks more often. Whenever I do exotic sword quests and have to get the ability kills, I will load straight into a Siege of the Warmind mission and pull out the Monte Carlo. In PvP, the auto is better at medium range than at far range. The only time it is good at range is when the enemy is below half health. There's not much to say about this weapon, but I would give it a C tier across the board, mainly because it's just a regular auto rifle with more range and a perk that grants your melee back. Next on the list is the Hawkmoon. The Hawkmoon is definitely one of the most popular weapons on this list. Back in the days, if you landed a one-shot headshot to someone in Crucible, you were one of the luckiest people in Destiny. The gun has 3 luck in the chamber bullets that deal extra damage, and there was a very low chance that you can get all 3 luck in the chamber on one bullet. In PvE, the gun is really good and isn't like any other gun. Overall, the weapon is just great, but I'd rather use legendary weapons more like Fatebringer or some other Fatebringer role handgun. You don't have PvE perks on it, but somehow a really good gun. If you don't have a Fatebringer role, I actually suggest using this gun because it's really freaking good. In PvP, it's really amazing, and I see people who use this weapon today. The luck in the chamber bullets really excel well in the Crucible. Overall, I give it an S tier in PvE and an A tier in PvP. Next on the list is Hardlight. If you ever use this gun, you know this gun is pretty much an epilepsy light show. The bullet spread is very bright and the bullets ricochet off of walls. In PvE, this weapon isn't used much except for speedruns like Vaulted Glass or mission speeds. What makes this weapon so unique is that it's the only weapon that can allow you to shoot enemies inside their spawn room. On the other side, it's not a great auto rifle to use against enemies that are up to your light. It's not a shredding weapon and it can hardly take out lower level enemies. In PvP, there's no reason why you should use this weapon. No one ever uses it and no one ever will. The time to kill is so garbage on this weapon and you end up being outgunned by the other guns. The only effective-ish thing is that you can shoot the ricochet bullets in a hallway and hope you kill someone around the corner. In PvE, I would give it a C tier. The only thing making it useful is it's good for speedruns. In PvP, I give it a D tier because I don't see why you would use this gun. You're better off using a Doctrine of Passion or a Vision Stone. The next gun on the list is the Service Regime. It's 2021 and auto rifles aren't good, nor are they the meta anymore. There's only a handful of good auto rifles and the Service Regime is not one. The idea of the gun is that you can make it either a slow but hard-hitting weapon or a fast weapon. That is your choice. For PvE, I would choose to make it a fast fire rate weapon. It allows you to get more kills and a better chance of activating the Suros Legacy perk, which gives you a chance of getting a portion of your health back. The bottom half also does more damage with Suros Legacy. It's pretty much just glass half full. For PvP, I would choose to make it a slow but hard-hitting weapon. Even though that is the better choice, you're going to get outgunned by a lot of weapons. Overall, I will give it a C tier throughout both PvE and PvP. It's not really a good weapon, although it was a really good weapon back in year 1. Damn, Bungie, why the fuck you gotta nerf shit? The next gun on our list is Zalo Supercell. Damn, it was good back in the day, and it is still today. This gun is the grandfather of the Risk Grinder in Destiny 2. Zalo has a perk called Bolts from the Blue, which says double kills with this weapon charge a small amount of super energy and return ammo to the magazine. It also has a perk that lets you chain lightning between enemies. The Risk Grinder in Destiny 2 definitely got its perks from Zalo. In PvE, this is an amazing weapon when ads are bunched up together. I see a lot of people using it for the Abyss encounter on Coda's End, and it definitely excels in that encounter. I do agree that it's amazing because Zalo's perks are really freaking good. If you're ever using this weapon against low level enemies or in a strike with small arms and arc burn, this gun definitely feels overpowered. In PvP, like I said, most auto rifles aren't really good like they were in the past. What were once metas aren't metas now. The time to kill isn't too great, but if you can somehow manage to chain lightning shots between enemies, it seems like it can do some damage. I believe Zalo is a forgotten legend for the newer players of Destiny, so that's why I give Zalo Supercell an S tier on PvE and a C tier for PvP. The perks are just godly for PvE, but isn't too great for PvP. The Zalo Supercell is probably one of my favorite guns of all time in Destiny's history. It's just so good. The next gun on our list is the Necrocast. Back in the Dark Below times, if you've gotten a Crux of Crota for your Necrochasm, you were deemed a lucky player. The Necrochasm dates back to the first DLC of Destiny. It was really popular back then, but it's not anymore. I don't see people using it anymore, and I want to know why. First, let's start with PvE. If Arcburn is a modifier for the Nightfall and you don't have Zalo or Nora Fatebringer Adept, Necro is a good choice. Alone without the Arcburn modifier, this gun is really good. The perk Cursebringer triggers a Curse Thrall explosion when an enemy is killed. If you've played Destiny before, you know that Curse Thralls are a bit dangerous, and it applies to the same thing for the ads. It can deal a hefty ad clear on its own. This gun has a lot of recoil, but I find it to be controllable. You want to run Accurized Ballistics and fitted stock to get a balance of stability, impact, and range. This applies to both PvE and PvP. In PvP, it's a top tier weapon under the exotic auto rifles. Back then, I didn't have a good legendary auto rifle to use to get the Doctrine passing out of an auto rifle bounty, so I had to choose an exotic. I doubt every auto rifle in the Necrocast treated me the best. The Cursebringer perk isn't the best for PvP, but the stats on the gun is what made it good. In PvE, it's a solid S tier weapon. The Necrocast definitely deserves more love as it did back then. In PvP, it's a B tier because the stats on the weapon make it worth using. It may not be the best exotic auto rifle in the game, but it gets the job done.
Alright, give me a second. Okay.
The next gun on our list is the Bullion Gemini. Have you ever heard of the Bullion Gemini? Not many people have. You never see it, no one ever uses it, and it's not a popular weapon. The Bullion Gemini is the scout you get for being rank 7 with the Queen. In PvE, the scout is okay. The perks on the weapon aren't PvE based, it's just another scout rifle. You don't have any PvE related perks like Outlaw, Firefly, Explosive Rounds, Crowd Control, but it's still a pretty good weapon. You don't need the armor boost or agility as much as you do in PvE. Even though that's the case, I still like this weapon pretty much. However, in PvP, this scout is very underrated. I never see anyone using it and they're missing out. Even though it's a scout rifle, the perk called Or Another grants bonus armor on a body shot kill and stacks up to 3 times. The trick is to get headshots until they're low and then body shot them to finish it off. Again, it's a scout, but with the perk, you can get closer to people than other scouts. Close range isn't good for it like any other scout, but you can get closer to people than the other scouts allow you to do. For PvE, this weapon is a B tier. It's just like any other scout, but it gives you a boost of armor. For PvP, this weapon is a B tier overall. I like getting close to people and using this scout rifle with it granting me bonus armor so I take less damage. The next gun on the list is Jade Rabbit. Back in Destiny, there was one player that had an exotic called the Fate of All Fools. He was the only player to have that gun. Later on, the Jade Rabbit came out and it was pretty much like that gun. In PvE, the gun isn't half bad. Its perks make it similar to triple tap, but you're basically hitting 2 body shots for every headshot. To keep firing the weapon, you have to keep bodying. The gun's perk is good against bosses, but this gun doesn't do much damage. In PvP, well, it's so garbage. The perks are horrible on this gun. The Jade Rabbit perk, which grants bonus precision damage and reloads a portion of the mag from chaining body shots, forces you to try and proc it. The base mag is 7 shots, which is why you have to chain body shots. You can use extended mag, which is what I recommend, but you still have to chain body shots to make the gun even good. It's such a difficult weapon to use, and you'll be outgunned by literally every other weapon on this list. For PvE, I'm giving it a C+ tier. It's a mediocre weapon. For PvP, I'm also giving it a C. This gun is just downright garbage. On the other hand, it does a good amount of damage to the head and is better at using extended range. The next weapon on the list is probably one of the most popular weapons in Destiny. This weapon was the freaking meta in Trials of Osiris. If you haven't taken a lucky guess yet, it's Mighty Multi-Tool. And in Crucible, if you were to camp in the back of the map in Wheel's Court, you'd be using this gun. Even if you aren't camping, it's such a good weapon in mid-range. In PvE, this gun is good. Like the other scouts on this list, it doesn't have PvE perks, but it just does better than the other weapons on this list too. If you were doing mission speeds on a hunter, you would most likely be using Mida for the extra agility. In PvP, the ideal build is quick draw and max range. The changes between stability and impact are so little that it doesn't make a difference. The idea is to constantly get top hat shots, which is just shooting the top of the enemy's head. It's so damn good in PvP, and there's something bad about it. For PvE, this weapon is being put at a B tier. It doesn't really do well compared to other PvE scouts like my Call of Duty, a Burning Eye, or Quinton Dragon. For PvP, I give this an S tier because it's one of the best and most famous exotics. The next gun on our list is Outbreak Prime. This was a really hard gun to get when the Wrath Machine dropped. You had to find 5 monitors, and the 4th monitor was in the diamond room where you had to do a puzzle that required reading binary to step on canisters to open the diamond. Back then, this gun had to be nerfed because the nanites were broken. The Shiva nanites are triggered when an enemy takes repeated hits from the weapon. The perk Virulence added on to the nanites and made them attack other enemies on a precision kill. In PvE, this gun is amazing. It doesn't feel strong at first, but when you break the enemy shield and the Shiva nanites come into play, it's OP. The funny thing is that when the nanites attack some enemies, it makes them run really fast. A tip when using this weapon is not to use it for axes. For some reason, the nanites don't do good damage against him. In PvP, the nanites were broken. Some toxic kid reported a user for killing them with Outbreak Prime. For some reason, Bungie reportedly banned the user. Compared to other pulse rifles like Hopscotch and Hawksaw, it is worth using against them. This gun has good stability, so it's good against flinch and armor-piercing rounds. The nanites are helpful in some cases, like multiple people together. For PvE, this weapon gets an A tier mainly because of how well the nanites do. After an enemy's shield is broken, the whole weapon shreds. For PvP, this weapon deserves a B tier. It's up there with the better pulse rifles and can outgun them on occasions. The stability just makes it a great weapon. The next gun on our list is Badjiju. The Badjiju is a very unique weapon. There was no other weapon that was similar to it. The build of the weapon allows you to gain more super energy and reload the magazine from getting a kill. In PvE, this gun is really good because of its build. If you have seen me speedrun Restoration or Soloing Crota, you see me using this gun. It allows me to get my super up really fast and to clear out ads quick. In PvP, it's such a great weapon. If you can control the stability, this gun is good. I suggest putting on armor-piercing rounds because the flinching for other players is ridiculous. The only case that the flinch isn't good is when going against high stability weapons like Outbreak. An additional note is that you also get your super up quick and don't have to reload because the String of Curses perk does it for you. For PvE, this gun is a S tier because it synergizes really well for getting your super fast and killing ads really fast. The idea of not having to reload is really amazing. For PvP, this weapon definitely deserves an A tier. It's good against most pulses and holds on its own really freaking well. The next weapon on our list is the Vex Mythoclast. Back when the Vault of Glass came out, getting a Vex Mythoclast from killing Atheon on hard mode would make your entire raid team shit their fucking pants. Having this weapon was like playing God. It was so good in the Crucible and in PvE. Time travel to the present, and the weapon is nerfed to the fucking ground. Thanks, Bungie. It's pretty much an unplayable gun now. In PvE, it was so good before it was nerfed. Now, you can only kill about 3 to 5 ads before you have to reload. A big issue with the gun is that you can easily run out of ammo. The only time it's good is if there's the solar burn and small arms modifier. Only then is when the weapon feels like its year 1 self. In PvP, this was the best gun at year 1. After the nerf, it's now the worst gun ever. It takes so much time to kill one enemy. The range on this gun is ridiculously short. The stability on the weapon is another issue. For PvE, this gun is going to be thrown at the D tier. My advice, don't use this fucking weapon. For For PvP, it's the same matter. It's being put at a depressing F tier. It's so hard to use, you run out of ammo, and it's a feller at killing things. The next gun on the list is the No Land Beyond. The No Land Beyond is a primary sniper rifle. When it came out during the Taken King release, it was so popular in the Crucible and in Trials. People would run it with a sidearm like the Iron Reef D. In PvE, it's not a good thing to have a sniper as a primary, it's just a meme. You can only get a couple of shots for the gun. If you watched my No Land only video, you'd see me constantly running out of ammo. In PvP, this is where the gun excels. If you can use it, it's a good weapon. The ornament on the gun is actually helpful. It removes the big handle on the side out of your way. For PvE, this gun sits at an F tier. It's not a good idea to use a primary sniper against ads. You run out of ammo so much. For PvP, this gun is a B tier. I'm not giving it any higher because it's a skill-based weapon and not a lot of people are good with it. If you can take time and work with the weapon, then it'd be a good weapon. The best thing to do is to run a sidearm with this weapon. The next gun on the list is the Universal Remote. This is a primary shotgun. It doesn't have much ammo and only 3 shots in the magazine. When ADSing, you can hit precision shots and you have increased range. In PvE, this is a weapon that's not recommended. You run out of ammo faster than Vex with the class and you constantly have to reload. Your best bet is to run no backup plans with shotgun reloaders. In PvP, this is a weapon that's specifically for no backup plans. You just run around with the shotgun and constantly get force bait. It's pretty toxic, but that's not to say you should use this weapon. You can use better shotguns like Party Crash or Matador. For PvE, this weapon gets an F tier because of how many problems you run into with it. For PvP, it gets a B tier because it's practically meant for PvP. One thing that would make it better is a buff to range. The next gun on this list is the Red Death. This is probably one of my favorite looking guns. The Red Death has a perk called Red Death, which says that each kill heals you and speeds up reload. It's essentially Outlaw, and you get health back. That being said, for PvE, it excels so well. It moves down enemies, and you also get your health and a faster reload. If you were to go against higher light enemies, getting your health with this weapon allows you to be in the fight more often, and die less often too. In PvP, this gun is downright dirty. You shred as much as Housecarl's Pilgrim and Hawksaw. Precision kills to heal you is such a good thing in PvP. For PvE, this weapon is a fat S tier. This weapon is a S tier in PvP also because of how well it excels in the Crucible. When testing this weapon, I managed to top frag and get 3,000 points in that game. The next weapon on the list is the Volstov 7G0X. This weapon is a jack of all trades. Well, it's supposed to be. You can have it at 900 or 450 RPM, be a pulse, scout, or auto rifle, and have a lot of range or stability. I like the idea of the weapon, but it's not great. It's just a nostalgia trip. In PvE, the best choice is either full auto with braced frame and counterbalance at 900 RPM, or burst shot with rifle barrel and rangefinder at 450 RPM. It feels like an average auto rifle. In PvP, the best choice is to run full auto with braced frame and counterbalance at 900 RPM. It shows players pretty good. The pulse build is burst fire with rifle barrel and rangefinder at 450 RPM, and the scout build is semi-auto with rifle barrel and rangefinder at 450 RPM. For PvE, this weapon gets a C tier. The auto build is great, but the builds are mediocre. For PvP, this weapon is given a C tier. I find no matter what build you arrange, there's no way of making this weapon good. I'd rather run my Doctrine passing or Vision Stone. The next weapon on the list is Thorne. This weapon was so good in year 1, but not anymore. Its Born bullets poison enemies, dealing damage over time. Sadly, Bungie nerfed the weapons to the ground and it's not garbage. Again, where you got nerf shit, Bungie? In PvE, the damage over time is better, but it's still bad. It's low to your hand cannon, and you don't do much with this gun. One cool note is that you can shoot Phalanx's shields, and it poisons them via the poison bullets. In PvP, there's an Iron Lord artifact that was meant to decrease damage over time from burn and poison. The gun itself is difficult to use, and you easily get outgunned. For PvE, this weapon is a C tier because it isn't a great weapon for killing ads. I'd rather stick to my favorite and roll hand cannons. For PvP, this one is a C tier because it can 3-tap people, but this difficulty of use and the nerfed poison damage makes it not worth to use. The next weapon on the list is the No Time to Explain. This is the weapon for the quest from the Paradox mission. You would have to find 3 dead ghosts hidden around the map, and then take the mysterious portal on the way to Atheon. You would then have to kill a Taken Minotaur and get a ghost from the end chest. You would then have to go to Lakshmi for more details about the quest. This gun is the exotic form of the Strangest Rifle. It's essentially the same thing. Before the Taken King, the Strangest Rifle was a blue gun. I bet you didn't know that. In PvE, this gun is good. I like how it feels and I like how it works. It's a normal pulse rifle like any other legendary, but you get more shots for each precision hit you get. In PvP, it's like a hopscotch pilgrim with headseeker, but each precision hit returns to the mag. It's a pretty good weapon. For PvP, this weapon deserves to sit at a B tier because it's as good as the Strangest Rifle. For PvP, this weapon is being put at an A tier because of how similar it is to Hopscotch Pilgrim. The Headseeker perk and the Rewind Again perk make it so good. Next up on the list are the class weapons, Fabian Strategy, the Ace of Spades, and Zolaylock. By being rank 5 in the Gunsmith, each class gets an exotic primary. For the Titan, it's the Fabian Strategy. This gun is pretty good in PvE. If you're close to an enemy, the weapon fires fast. It also has crowd control, which allows you to deal more damage to more enemies, which is a big plus when it comes to PvE. In PvP, this weapon looks like it's from Call of Duty. It's better when your enemies are close because you shoot faster. That puts them in the danger zone. If you like to rush people with shotguns, this weapon is perfect for you. It makes you a major threat for people because you will mow down your foes. For PvE, it's a B tier because the crowd control shreds ads. For PvP, it's a B tier because it's not a popular weapon, it's just a decent weapon. For the Warlock class, you get a scout rifle called Zolaylock. It's a good scout by itself, but when you have it charged super, you get a buff to fire rate, stability, and handling. In PvE, this weapon is good either way. If you want to use the buff more, then it's best to run self-res, so you have to use your super less. You can also use the Grenadier perk and get a bunch of scatter grenades if you run Void Walker. In PvP, it's a sacrifice worth using. If you want to use your super often and use the buff, use it in a Mayhem game. This weapon will definitely excel in that type of game mode. For PvE, this weapon deserves a S tier. Grenadier perk gives you bonus grenade energy for each kill. Running scatter grenades and bloom is good by itself, but getting grenades back even faster is even better. For PvP, it's an A tier. It's a good weapon, but you have to sacrifice your super for the buffs. I like the idea of it, and it kinda shreds actually too. For the Hunter class, you get the hand cannon called the Ace of Spades. The Ace of Spades is Cade 6's weapon, and in Destiny 2, during the Forsaken release, you were able to get K6's gun. In PvP, unlike other exotics, you actually get Firefly, a PvE perk. Firefly is a perk that makes an explosion upon a precision kill. This perk is great especially since it's a hand cannon and it's easier to hit headshots with. It definitely reminds me of Fatebringer, one of my favorite guns in the game. In PvP, it's good. I compared the stats of the weapon to my Palindrome, and I was surprised to find out that they are nearly the exact same. That being said, this gun is pretty good. For PvE, it receives an S tier because it's much like a Fatebringer. It doesn't have Outlaw, but it does have Firefly. The perk Maverick moves one round from your reserves to the mag from getting a precision kill. The Maverick and Firefly synergize so well together. If it also had Outlaw, it would be a damn beast. For PvP, it's a B tier. It's essentially the same as Palindrome, same range, impact, and rate of fire, with slightly less stability. If you don't have a Palindrome and you're a hunter, use this gun. It may not have luck in the chamber, but it's pretty damn good. Now that we are done giving all the weapons their tiers, it's time to rank them. First, let's start with the Singe modifiers. Here are the best weapons to use for the Arc, Void, and Solar Burn modifiers. Here are the weapons for the Arc Burn modifier. Here are the weapons for the Solar Burn modifier. And finally, here are the weapons for the Void Singe modifier. Now that we are done ranking each weapon under the burn modifiers, let's go rank all the Age of Triumph weapons under the categories of PvE and PvP. Here are the list of all the Age of Triumph weapons ranked under the PvE category. Here are all the Age of Triumph weapons ranked under the PvP category. Now that we are finally done with ranking all the Age of Triumph weapons, it's time to rank each weapon type under the PvE and PvP categories based on their tier. Here's the PvE and PvP list for the auto rifle group. Here's the list for the scout rifles group. Here's the PvE and PvP list for the hand cannons group. Here's the PvE and PvP list for the pulse rifles group. Now that we ranked every exotic, it's time to end the video. But first, I would like to give a special thanks to these people. They've helped me test the weapons on them in the Crucible because some of these weapons were hard to test in the Crucible, and I didn't want to wait in queue for a long time for each weapon. I've put a lot of weeks and hours into this video. It took me a lot of editing and time to get the footage for every weapon. I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. In the future, I plan on working on a tier list for the special and heavy weapons, exotics, and also the exotic armor for each class. Have a good day. Bye.